Hello everyone, this is Loco S, and welcome back to Star Citizen, Day 2 of the Intergalactic Aerospace Expo. And as you can see from the images behind me, it is indeed IAE 2953, but more importantly, the next symbol that'll pop up is for Aegis Dynamics, which is today's show floor. This is going to be one of the bigger show floor days, just for the fact that Aegis has a lot of ships in-game, and some of them are fairly huge. In fact, you can see one of the largest ships in-game up ahead, the Reclaimer, poking through the show floor in this little window up here. So, as I pointed out yesterday, we still have the alien manufacturers on sale today. So, if you feel if you want to go see both the alien manufacturers and Aegis, today's a great day to do that. It is also the last day to see the alien manufacturers, so make sure you get in while you can. Alright, so let us jump up here. I mentioned, Aegis is one of the larger manufacturers here, and they pretty much take up the entire show floor, so we're going to go ahead and work our way around. We're going to start in the center hall and then work our way clockwise like we did yesterday. Except now we're going to actually be exploring a little bit of those side halls. So let's go ahead and start with the Saber. Because the Saber Comet is the upgraded version of the Saber, so no need to... It's kind of silly to do the upgraded version first, but... Aegis Saber, it's a medium fighter. And it's a medium fighter that focuses on somewhat stealth, so it's not as noticeable as a regular fighter, but it's still, as a medium fighter, not going to be the stealthiest thing around. But it does focus on a bit of stealth, but it really focuses on agility over durability and raw firepower. That being said, it still has a hefty amount of ordnance. There are, I believe, 4 missiles in a weapon bay down below here that pop out, and there are 4 size 3 guns. So you have 2 on the nose, and then 2 in the wing nacelles mounted outside of the engines. And show the cockpit. Now it feels weird to say that this is a quote-unquote older ship, but the Aegis Saber is actually an older ship in-game. And unfortunately, I can't power up the ship to show you the interior. And the new lighting that CIG has planned isn't implemented yet. But when that gets implemented, you'll actually have the show floor lights pop in here and actually illuminate this. As is, it looks kind of bad. And as a show model, you can't really power it up, so... But it is an Aegis ship, so... You do actually have a fairly good visibility, pretty good agility. If you're looking for a medium fighter, I could definitely highly recommend it as a counterpoint to the Anvil Hornet. Especially if you're going from, if you're comparing this to the base Hornet, this is definitely a good competitor to that. And personally, I would personally recommend it over the Hornet. Before we get to the Reclaimer, there is the Saber Comet, and the Saber Comet really mostly just is it's a bit of a fancier skin and a bit of a different weapons loadout, and that's pretty much all really is all to the Saber Comet and the regular Saber. It's a different custom paint job that is unique to the Saber. It's a bit more of a camo coloration and a light blue, as opposed to the Saber's red and black. But other than that, and the blue cockpit glass from the exterior, it looks blue. Inside, it's clear. And the fact that it has a different weapons loadout, that's all that really is the difference between the two ship variants. Now, this is an interesting and, quite frankly, massive ship. The Reclaimer, it's one of the biggest ones we have in-game, and you have to be careful with this one, because this one has a... The elevators in this are kind of notorious for doing things. Let's see if we can get it to work for us. So, the Reclaimer does have a elevator spot up here to the side. And this is your primary way of entering the reclaimer from planet side. There is a cargo elevator in the back, but unfortunately, as you will see, the cargo elevator in the back sometimes doesn't want to work with you. Oh, there we are. Go up. It is an older ship, so there's a lot of things like this elevator that are kind of a bit messy. There's no panel really to look at. You're kind of like trapped in here. There we go. But we made it through safely this time. And here we go. This is the main salvage bay and an engineering station for overlooking it. But this is where the hull munching takes place in here. And it's all automated from there on back, but this is where it physically takes place in the ship. There's an elevator to the main deck. And there's actually a tube that you can, a maintenance ladder you can climb up to get access to the top floor as well. Otherwise, this is where you have different ships, ship stations. You have a scanning station here on the side. You have a remote turret operator here and here that operates various turrets around the ship. Now, obviously, they're not going to let you power up the ship. They're not going to let you power on the turret and actually enter it because they don't want you doing anything to the fellow attendees. But I do believe these turrets operate front-based turrets. So there's two turrets like on the side towards the front that give the ship some protection. And the ship is actually very well protected, so you do have that. Will I call the elevator? I'll go over and point out that we have two escape pods there. And then we have two salvage operator seats here. And these actually operate the salvage beams. And up here we have a pilot and a claw operator. And this is basically the main cockpit of the ship. Good, decent visibility all around for a large ship as this, but you definitely don't get a sense of the ship behind you. It's very much, you are very much in the front and sort of below the ship. So it's kind of a bit of an awkward angle to fly the ship in tight spaces, but that's why pilots get paid the big bucks sometimes. Also, I do believe the claw operator and that whole system is coming online soon with hull munching. Or at the very least, hull munching will be performed at that seat. Salvage operations take place back here at these two seats for hull scraping. So all of these salvage operations take place in that forward bridge and cockpit section of the ship. We go, once again, past engineering here into the elevator. And we're going to go ahead and take the elevator up. And here we get to some more access. We get some more areas of the ship. Going back here real quick, the ladder that we saw earlier pops up here in the gravity generator room, which is its own thing. Its own separate room for the gravity generator. And larger ships do have their own gravity generator room, so keep that in mind. Other than that, we have... Let's work our way clockwise, and then we'll work our way to the center of that. Again, we have elevator there. Turret access for the top turret is up here. Let's pop in our little heads. There's your turret for the top of the ship. And you do have the rear remote turrets, I believe, either on the side of the ship. Now, I think they're actually on the rear of the ship. I do know that the remote turrets are on the side of the ship. This is a ship I don't usually play around with a whole lot or even run into in the verse. It's a very large ship, but it's also a ship because it's so large and usually people multi-crew it. You don't normally see a whole lot of it. I just entered, by the way, the drone room. And in the future, when drone gameplay becomes a thing, you'll have various drones here that'll be stored up in racks. And then when you want to launch a drone, this door up here opens up, and the drones fly out. And as you can see, right here, this is an airlock door, so this door will remain closed, obviously, when that upper door is open. And you can operate the drones from these two seats. And obviously, when the drones return, you can seal that door up there, and then you can open up that door and extract resources from the drones that they found, or do maintenance on the drones, refuel the drones from here. Okay, working your way clockwise. Okay, these have a lot of exposed paneling. This is very much a, in lore, something interesting about the Reclaimer is that they're not producing any new Reclaimers in lore, in that basically every single Reclaimer from here on out is a quote-unquote, like, mass-produced copy. Or not a mass-produced copy, they're all older Reclaimers that are in service, and they're just being traded from one ship to another, one person to another. So my character's hair's popping through today. Just weird. Otherwise, we have a little bit of a server room back here where we can switch out computer blades and the like. Nothing major back there. Then we have this interesting walkway here, where, by the something of note is that you can actually look down into the salvage space down below. I don't know if there's like any protective glass down there, or if that's just like literally an open grate. So be careful not to drop anything through that open grate, because it goes right into the salvage munching gears. But after you pass the drone bay and some of the more technical operations of the ship, we actually get to the back half of the ship where the habs are. And you actually enter, believe it or not, the kitchen right away, with this big, nice side window looking into the outside world. So you get just a little idea of what the outside world is like at that current moment, with a crap ton of fog in here, which has always been here. It's always been a very foggy room. Also, outside, beside the kitchen, you have a docking collar that docks to small-sized ships vertically, so it's a vertical docking collar. And then after the kitchen, you have your captain's quarters with a very interesting, if I'm not quite sure, don't think that's intended. I know that some older ceiling lights have that kind of a texture, but I don't think that's intentional. But you have a captain's quarters here with his office here. Benches for the crew to sit down and listen to his debriefings, or him roasting you guys. Again, also nice window into the outside world on the starboard side. And here's the captain's quarters. He has his own little closet for storing all of his personal items and clothing. He has his own head with shower, toilet, and sink. And, of course, his own bed. Going over here, we now have the crew stations, and the Reclaimer is definitely a ship that you need a large crew to man. You have, with one pilot seat, or one pilot/captain seat, and then you have rooms for 4 bunks for other players. So a crew of 5 can be sustained long duration journeys, which makes sense because you'll have one the captain being the pilot, and then you have 2 operators for salvage operations at a time, and then possibly a third one to assist in various things with salvage, and as well as a 4th person who could be just a dedicated engineer trying to keep all the systems up and running. Plus, when you get into combat, you have 1 pilot and at least 3 dedicated people who can also then run around and become gunners. So, and also for a ship of this size, there's actually 2 toilets and 2 showers. So it's very unlikely your crew members are going to run out of bathrooms at any one time, thankfully. And that's basically the entirety of the crew quarters. It is relatively spacious for crew quarters. But thankfully, you kind of do need that for a ship that's going to be out in the black for quite a bit, doing salvage operations. Climb on the couch here, and you can actually see down to the show floor down below. So, you have, again, nice big window looking outside into the outside world. And again, you have that frosted textured glass on the doors. And that's all of the habitation from there all the way back to the kitchen. And now we get towards the back area of the ship where more of the salvage operation, more of the ship's operations are held. You do have airlocks on both sides, as well as suit lockers. So, if you do need to do any EVA salvage, like you're going out into the black to retrieve components, you can deploy. You can suit up in the locker right there, and deploy out the airlock to do salvage operations by hand, which will be a thing. You will definitely want to do that when you're trying to retrieve components, because in that way you can actually get a lot more money from just retrieving components than just doing the hull scraping and munching. Subdeck. Subdeck is where where more of the engineering gameplay comes into effect. So you do have the grav generator up front, but back here is where all the components will be held, or at least the majority of the components will be held, including the ship's power plant, which is right here. I do believe larger ships, like the Reclaimer, have separate power plant components that are bespoke to the ship and will have their own little engineering room like this for them. So this is a pretty cool room. It's is it hexagon? Yeah, it's a hexagon. So you have this hexagonal room back here for the engine, which is pretty cool. As well as, I want to see here, I think there's more room for components back here as well. Alright. Now, thankfully, at the very tail end of the ship, all we have left to do now is go over the various floors. Now, unfortunately, we might have to cut the video here. The Reclaimer has a very infamous and long-running series of bugs with the elevator. So I might not go to every single floor in detail just to prevent anything from happening where the gets stuck on a certain floor, so keep that in mind. Now, we have a salvage balcony and a salvage room. So the balcony floor is this little deck up here, which runs around the circumference of the room. And the deck is the one below where you actually have the salvage. So, let's see if I can get a good view. So salvage, so the elevator is out here, and then on either side here is where the salvage actually deploys. And I do believe they want to change this up to be to produce larger SU boxes, but basically what happens is you do your salvage beam, and then when you scrape off the surface of the ship, it gets produced into little boxes here, and then you actually remove the boxes, and then you store the boxes all around here with all your salvage material. Now, as much as this, I believe, looks like it opens up, I do not believe this back door of the ship opens up. And there's also all these cranes here. They're mostly just for show. I don't believe they are operational, and I don't think they'll ever be operational, sadly. But you can go ahead, but you definitely have a lot of space here for storing SCU upon SCU of RMC salvage material. Plus, also, you're going to have the recycled ship material coming in, and I think a few patches. I'm not quite sure if it's the next patch, but it will be in a couple of patches. So, you have the top deck here for salvage balcony. The next floor down was the habitation deck that we came from. Salvage processing is that floor right there, where the salvage comes out the side, and you basically have to pull it out and move it around. The salvage hold is another primary place to store the salvage. So you can store it either on the actual processing floor, or you can actually come down here and store it. And I should mention that this section here, by the way, matches up with a portion on the top of the deck where you can just basically toss boxes down here, and then you'll have a person down here moving boxes back here. And really, when it comes down to having all the salvage beams and all that stuff, you're probably going to want even a dedicated person back here. So you might have to play it carefully as you do things in the game, where you're definitely going to want to have a person back there doing salvage operations, just like literally doing nothing but manning boxes, while people in the front of the ship are doing the actual salvage operations. And then once you build up enough cargo, or you're in between salvaging ships, send an extra person back here to help that poor soul like organize stuff. And I do believe someone else is probably summoning us from a different floor. Because we are stopping at the rotation floor. So let's go ahead and exit the ship. Now, while I was talking, that cargo bay, that is for general cargo. It is not very much, it is not linked to the actual, oh, there's the cargo deck. Oh no, that's the, salvage hold. There's the cargo bay. So the cargo bay can be used to hold salvage. You'll have to move the salvage onto this elevator and then move down to move it into the cargo bay. But cargo bay is more or less intended for ship supplies, so spare parts, things of that nature. Now, like spare parts, ship supplies, extra food for the crew, stuff like that. And that's the Reclaimer in a nutshell. It's a very large ship, lots of cavern spaces. But there are some other large ships that we'll be getting to today, so let's hurry up over to the Zenith Hall and get to those, because we're already 20 minutes in, and I know it's a long video, and it is to be expected. Like I said, Aegis Dynamics is a very big ship manufacturer with a ton of ships in game, so they're going to fill up the expo hall way faster than any other manufacturer. We don't want to pollute the show floor because it looks messy. I'll toss it after this recording. Ah! Alright, that's going to be kind of distracting, so we'll go third person. There we go. And that way I can show off my shirt. We'll go first person once we're inside the ship, because I don't think we're going to have much of an option there. So, welcome to the side halls. And I do have to say, I love the side halls of the expo, because they're, I think they have way more interesting stuff, like on the walls. They're much more interestingly shaped. So we do actually arrive here at Aegis's bombers. So Aegis Dynamics has two bombers. You have the Eclipse, which is basically a F-117 Nighthawk, where it's a stealth bomber. It's very much focused on deploying its 3 sideline torpedoes stealthily without being seen against very large-sized targets. And the torpedoes are held in this middle bay in the middle of the ship, and it can't really do anything else other than deploy torpedoes. It does have these 2 small defensive guns on it, but they don't really do anything, and they're only meant to basically help fend off any fighters it might encounter. It can't even really do that all that well. It's more or less meant to deter any enemies from thinking it's an easy lunch, plus assist its escorting fighters and dealing with those threats. We'll go ahead and just pop in real quick. It's going to be another one of those very dark cockpits, unfortunately. don't know. I don't think they really did a whole lot of lighting with this. Oh, maybe they did it. There we go. So this is a cockpit, by the way, that they have done after the Aegis Saber. But it's definitely something they did like very shortly after the Aegis Saber. But you can definitely tell it's a bomber with it has way more displays. Visibility in the vertical plane is non-existent, but it's really cool because you can look up, and I don't think there's any switches up here yet implemented. That'd be cool if they actually move some of the switches up here, so you have to actually look up to activate stuff. But you have a whole bunch of displays down here for MFDs. Decent side-to-side visibility, but no vertical visibility. And if you're targeting large ships with your torpedoes, which are really the only things that your torpedoes are really going to be able to reliably hit and target, you really don't need like a lot of vertical visibility. So it's definitely a good option, especially if you want a one-man option that can deal with cap ships. If you have a couple of friends who can fly escort fighters and you're always finding yourself targeting ships that are way larger than you, and the Eclipse is an option. It's not. It's definitely a very expensive option to buy on the website for just targeting capital ships, which are not super common. But it is a fun ship. I own one. I think at the time, it was one of those things at the time where I just had quite a bit of money, and I was like, there's not really... There weren't a whole lot of video games at the time coming out, so I figured, might as well. See, it looks really nice from the back. And the wings, by the way, this is the landing configuration. When it takes off and you retract the gears fold up and the wings fold down. Now, a very, very old ship in the game is the Retaliator bomber. Lots of turret gunner seats. There's, let's see here. I think if I remember, there's 3 turrets. If I remember, there's 2 turrets on the bottom, one in the front and the back, and then there's 2 side turrets that are on the top, at the back, and then 1 four front turrets. So this is very much the B-17 of Star Citizen. Lots of turret gunners to defend this ship. It is very interesting because the Tally has 6 torpedoes, compared to the Eclipse's 3. But I do believe the Retaliator focuses more on, instead of being stealthy, it's a very hard-to-kill target with a crap ton of defensive turrets and a much larger fuel tank. So this is very much a long-range bomber. But again, your primary armament here is 6 size 9 torpedoes, again used for targeting capital ships. Definitely a ship that you want to definitely have as an... this is definitely more of an org ship, where you definitely need the crew to man at least some of the turrets in order to make this a defensible option, because otherwise you are going to struggle. That being said, you have your pilot seat up there. You have your your lower nose turret up here. You have a front top turret up here. Right here. And then, weirdly on a bomber, or any kind of military vessel, after this turret here is where you have the gun rack. So if you do need to defend, if you're somehow getting sent to a swapping missions and going from a bombing mission to now a ground op, you actually do have gun racks here. You can store guns, and there are actually seats for 6 players. So keep in mind that it's an older ship, but this is definitely also a ship that is large in the sense of crew requirements. And I do believe that's a component axis up there. It's one of those older ships that unfortunately CIG built a very long time ago, and as such, they didn't quite have an idea what they needed to do with having like dedicated engineering rooms and dedicated like engineering bays, so you have components kind of scattered throughout the ship, which kind of makes sense because this is a very much a tight ship where a lot of the everything's kind of compact, so it does sell the believability that way. Alright, come on. Get off the... There we go. Also, sneaking around here, you do have the quote-unquote captain's room here with a single bed, as well as some other stuff here for him.
Okay, I think I'm about done here. You want to go on ahead? That's fine. I'll catch up with you later.
Sneak around here. Get a window into the front missile bay there, or front torpedo bay there. And you can actually access the torpedo bay through a door right there. Now, that door does seal up, so you don't have to worry about exposing yourself to the vacuum. But you can actually use that to go inspect the torpedoes and even potentially help load torpedoes from up here. Of note, however, the Retaliator does have a base model that has this room here be modular, so you can swap out this room with other modules. Going over here, we'll keep the FEMA going counterclockwise. So you have more components squeezed in there and throughout the ship. You have an engineering bay back here with an engineering station, as well as a overlook of the rear component of the rear bay with its two torpedoes there. And then this is basically the back half of the ship is nothing but component and turret access. So you have your top starboard turret there. You have your aft lower turret there. You have your, I believe now, port side top turret there.
I really appreciate that they've got some of their classic designs on display.
And that's pretty much it. There's also a docking collar if you need it, but most people don't. And that's the Aegis Reclaimer. So as big as the crew requirement is on the ship, it's mostly because of you have they want 5 people to man all the turrets all the time. Plus you have like 1 person who's an engineer who mans the engineering station, plus 1 bomber pilot. I would also say that this is one of Star Citizen's oldest ships, and it really hasn't had that much of a rework. So don't be surprised if it changes significantly. And I'll be honest, I can't really recommend the Reclaimer in its Retaliator in its current state, just because it's really old, and I'm not quite sure if it's going to get an update. Hopefully for Squadron 42 we get an update for it, and that would be nice. Because as you can see, there was a whole lot of rooms in there that things were tight, things were really quickly, intelligently placed. There are a whole lot of problems with that ship, and if you think about it, you have to have probably at least like 3 other players to make the ship like viable, and getting 3 other players to target another bomber ship is not. It's kind of hard. It's not something that happens very often where you're gonna run into enough other players to make a ship like that work. By the way, I should mention this year in IAE, they usually have these little side halls here where they either have like little displays of some kind. Sometimes they have like a ship on a spaceship on display, but this time they actually have mining on display. So showcasing the ground vehicle mining here with the Grey Cat Rock. We have the ship mining represented here by a MISC Prospector, which cannot be rented, but that'll be you'll be able to rent one for free on MISC Day. And you even have hand mining down here. And it's cool because you also have these posters here. United Resource Workers. They are... Yeah, I do believe you see more of their stuff for United Resource Workers in the various refineries throughout the Stanton system. So it's cool to see them also pop up here to go have a little mining display at IAE. So that's the Zenith Hall. Now we need to go over to the other, complete other side of this ship hall, and hopefully here.
Yeah, they've done a good job, and knowing the full history makes what they're showing extra impressive.
Definitely have to. You definitely see like doing this like massive sprint to the other side of the hall, like so we don't waste too much time here. It's like Oh boy. Want to double check here. Oh, wait, hold on. I'm an idiot. We have to run back. So, that did actually kind of, the other halls actually are a bit more, in previous years, they were actually a bit more clearly labeled and laid out. Unfortunately, I didn't realize that there is another hall there over at Zenith. I believe that was Zenith Hall 5 in the back. Zenith Hall 5 in the back actually has other stuff, so thankfully it should be relatively quick. Okay, let's do this so we don't overextend ourselves and die from a heart attack. I'll play. Okay, there we go. We can start running again. Alright, so now you have these smaller halls back here where they usually showcase a bunch of smaller ships. Alright, so there we go. The Vanguard series. Vanguard series are longer range ships. They're long range fighters. They all have various nose mounts here, where they mount a larger weapon. Plus, they all have a very much bespoke nose mount, and there are different kind of weapons that you can actually buy and customize here. So you're not just stuck with whatever the ship comes with. There actually are options that you can mount in there. For the Harbinger, you have basically an entire cannon loadout. You have one larger cannon and 4 smaller size 2 cannons in the nose, as well as 2 sets of missile. I believe these are 2 sets of size 2 missiles down below.
Another year, another IAE.
I think the Vanguard series does also have more missiles up top, but I do know that they have larger missiles down below. It's been a while since I flown my Vanguard. You have a quantum drive component up there at the top of the ramp. And all of the Vanguard series have a swappable middle container. You have storage here on the side. Okay, that happened. You have a bathroom right there. 2 beds right there. And usually this section here becomes a modular section. In this case, we have also a weapons, and it is just a weapons rack right here. You have different various storage here for your food. You have your generic storage here. And then you have your nose, you have your pilot seat here. And the second player, by the way, either mans this weapon station back here, or they can man a turret up top. Now, if the Vanguard Harbinger, it has a unique rocket turret, so it's mostly firing dumb weapons up top with the Harbinger. Next up, we have another interesting variant called the Hoplite. Hoplite has ballistic repeaters up top, as well as a Gatling gun down below. And the Hoplite does have a couple more interesting options for its loadout, because this is actually not meant really to be a combat ship, isn't so much to be a drop ship. Again, you have your cockpit up there with your components back here. I believe the top turret has repeaters, and the most important thing about the Hoplite is it rips out the hab area for 6 drop seats. So this is actually a good option for those of you looking for a small, heavily armored long-range dropship, because it's not as expensive as some of the other dedicated dropships, but it also is a bit more workable in terms of both real-life price. Also, you have in-game price that's a bit more workable. Plus, you have a pilot. You only have 1 pilot and 1 co-pilot operating each turret. And then you have room for 6 drop seats, which is enough for probably like most small orgs, and a crap ton of gun rack space. So this is definitely a good option for you guys looking in getting a drop ship in game, especially if it's a smaller crew. Now, I do want to get to that one over there, but we're going to take a bit more of a little bit longer look here at the Warden. This is the variant I have in game, and this is the standard fighter quote-unquote variant. You have for the nose, it has 4 laser repeaters, or 4 laser cannons in the nose, as in a ballistic Gatling. On the chin, you have, again, more missiles down below, and I do believe there's more missiles that pop out alongside the front of the ship. And this one does have a bit more of a, I wouldn't say relaxed vibe, but this one definitely more focuses on, on a more standard loadout, where you have a engineering station here on the side. You can actually mess with the ship systems from here. You have a top turret up above. I do believe you have more component access here for avionics. Storage right there. Gun rack right there. 2 beds. Your kitchen, and your bathroom. In fact, we'll use this to showcase the seat.
They've got some of their classic.
I love how they implemented audio for the show floor, but I feel like it's going to be the same audio, so like you'll have like a manufacturer that basically has almost nothing, and they'll say, "Oh, this is their strongest showing today," and it's like, yeah, they don't really have anything. But anyways, there's your view of the Vanguard cockpit. Decent visibility all around. It's not a light fighter where you have a crap ton of visibility down below to the sides or to the back, but it's still fairly good for a fighter-sized ship, especially because this is a heavy fighter. Other than that, you have extended your components back here in this build bay right here, and just to showcase what the top turret is like.
All right, the schedule I made. I better head to the next exhibit. I haven't seen everything yet. With the crowd, I definitely think the IAE is worth going to.
Now, I don't know if this is intentional or not, but there's a textured glass feels. I don't think this is standard, but yeah, you have a sawbuck repeater, so you have ballistic repeater cannons up here, and let's see here. There we go. We'll use this to showcase the view. So your missiles do come out on top. So you have those 2 like sloping surfaces to the inboard of the 2 engines up above. Those pop out with more missile racks, and then you have this top turret up here that does provide a bit more firepower and coverage for the ship from up above.
Not the best I've seen from this manufacturer, but still a pretty solid showing.
I think they've somehow outdone themselves with their latest lineup.
All right.
I'm gonna go and see if I can find anything more interesting.
And now we do have the Sentinel, which is the electronic warfare variant. Its front nose mounts are, I believe, I think those might be distortion weapons. And then there's this large attrition laser cannon if it has to actually fight with something. Plus it also has missiles. But this is very much a support e-warfare variant, and it's only the other thing of note is that there's actually an e-warfare station here that you could use, and this is going to have a bit more of an advanced engineering station for when e-warfare comes along. Plus, also, I believe there's an e-warfare turret up top for whatever that entails later on. But as e-warfare really isn't quite a thing at the moment, I can't really recommend the Sentinel unless you really think that's going to be something you want to do in the future. The Vanguard Warden, however, it also has been kind of struggling. I love the ship, but I don't take it out very often, mainly because the Warden, unfortunately, heavy fighters aren't the quote-unquote meta, and they do kind of struggle in fighting either smaller or light targets. Alright, here we go. Let's continue running. all the way now. Let's run back all the way over here.
Outdone themselves with their latest lineup.
Now I do believe Aegis. What does Aegis have left? I think Aegis has what Aegis has left is a couple of light fighters. I know that they have the Gladius, which is my personal favorite.
I have to say,
They have
overrated is
the Avenger Titan, I believe, is also next, and we have the Hammerhead. So, 45 minutes in, and yeah, I know this is a long video, but I want to cover all the ships. It's fun to see. It'd be fun to see in like 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the line when I'm a whole lot older, and hopefully this game is a lot more advanced. Come back like 5 years and see what ships are what ships we had available, and how many of these ships down here will come out. But that's another. That'll be get to that. We'll get to that eventually. So, Zenith Hall 2. There it is, Redeemer. So we have the Avengers and the Redeemer here, and then we have Gladius and Hammerhead down there. All right. So this is pretty cool. Cargo. The other major industrial gameplay loop. Alright, so, one of the more popular and highly recommended starter ships from many YouTubers is the Avenger series. Thankfully, they're all relatively small and compact, so it's not too much to go over with these. We have nose-mounted gun. Usually, it's usually a ballistic Vulcan gun, and you have 2 wing repeaters here on either side, and you do have room for 4 smaller missiles, and then the or I think these are size 1s. I think these are size 2s. So you have 4 size 2 missiles for defense. Also, if you need to have something with a bit more punch in your guns. Titan has a little bit of a cargo bay back here. Now, you do have to be careful. It does look big enough to have some a hover vehicle back here, but it really doesn't. I think the only vehicle that I've seen fit back here is a hover quad, and even then it's very much a tight fit back here. But you can have a couple of mission boxes back here. This ship is very popular because you can actually go out into the world, recover mission boxes, have salvage boxes, and then load up a couple boxes back here and still have enough room to maneuver down here into the living quarters. And this is a relatively small living quarters here. You do have some component access, I believe, here. And you have your little bed right here. And then you go up to the cockpit right here. And you do have quite a lot of good visibility out of this cockpit, which is another reason why this ship is so popular. You have your MFDs up there. And you have, a, like I said, really good view all around. Plus, I believe, at one point there was the option to actually exit in and out the side of the cockpit, but I don't know if that's a thing anymore. So, there we go. Avenger Titan. Relatively cheap starter ship, but still very effective. The Stalker is the OG Avenger, believe it or not. Slightly different loadout with its weapons, but this actually might be 4 size 1 missiles. Again, they might change. Sometimes it's hard to tell. Sometimes size 1 of one missile looks like a size 2 of another. But Stalker is the OG Avenger. What? I want to double check. This is the yeah, Avenger. Something else popped on the screen for a second. I thought I got confused, but no, this is the OG Avenger is indeed the Stalker, and it has 6 of these pods for housing criminals or bounties. So you can go out, grab 6 individual bounties, and have them all stored up here while you do your various bounty hunting missions. And for as small of a ship as it is, having 6 individual cells is huge. A lot of other ships don't have that kind of prisoner carrying capacity to size ratio as the Stalker does. We will get to the beast of a ship here in a bit with the Redeemer. But first I want to go over the other Avenger series ships. So we have the Warlock here, which is an EMP equipped variant. And this is used to stun ships. Again, you have laser cannons and a repeater. This ship does retain the cockpit, the side entry cockpit from earlier variants, because the EMP does kind of, unfortunately, block access into the cockpit. I don't think the Warlock has a bed, too. I think that might be another thing against it. Let's see what it does. I keep on hearing the inside Star Citizen sound effect. I think that's intentional. So yeah, I think that's a very intentional thing from CIG. So there's exit ship from that side. Exit C. Aha! So there is room for a bed. So yeah, this would be the door normally into the cargo bay or the back half of the ship, but unfortunately, there would just be an EMP device right there if I were to open that. But again, you still have a bed, so you can still definitely use this quote unquote on the road. Next up, we have the Titan Renegade, and this is basically a standard Titan. So it has a cargo bay in the back here, but it has a custom paint job and a slightly different weapons loadout. So Titan Renegade has ballistic cannons on the wings, which is an interesting choice, and a ballistic Gatling on the nose. So definitely an option for you if you want to have a slightly different loadout and a really cool paint scheme. What crowds? Yeah, you gotta love the NPC stuff. It'll probably make more sense in the future. So here we have the Redeemer. Aegis Redeemer is the gunship of Star Citizen. It is also a ship that has been in development for a very, very, very long time. Best way to describe it is, it's like I said, as a gunship, it's very much gun upon gun upon gun. You have a rear turret back here that covers the tail of the ship. You have two pilot-controlled ballistic cannons up here. Plus, the pilot also can control this nose turret right here for a bit more firepower. And there's also these two large ballistic Gatling guns here on the side of these turrets. I do believe these are 5-size ballistic Gatlings as well. And there's one on the, basically underneath the nose of the aircraft, and there's one on the top of the ship.
I'm just gonna stay here. Don't feel like doing much else.
Cool thing about the Redeemer gunship is that there is actually a space for 2 SEU of cargo here. So you could use this easily for supplies, mission boxes. There's at least a little bit of extra room for cargo here, especially for mission boxes, which are definitely something you want to be using this ship for. Like, it is a very similar head to the Redeemer, to the Vanguard series. There's this little side bathroom here. You have 4 beds here for crew. Your wardrobe is on either side for both for all 4 crew. Each crew member actually has their own wardrobe, which is nice for their own personal storage. A little bit of a kitchen down here. And I do believe the Redeemer is cool, and it's like one of the few ships that we have where the stuff is actually interactable. So you can actually interact with these. And I don't think it's... I mean, it's not necessarily a crime. It's weird. It's not a crime. It's allowing me to, like, open it up, too. So it's like, okay. I'm just assuming that this is something that they would put it like for you to actually enjoy. So, might as well.
Enough of these. The next one.
Actually, I might stay for a while, do another loop, just to make sure I didn't miss anything.
From what I've seen so far, I really think this is the manufacturer to beat this year.
I heard that their CEO was actually here in the hall.
I've been pretty blown away by everything on the show
Huh.
floor this year.
Hard to believe that I've been getting to go to these for almost a decade now.
I'm going to move on to the next hall, I think.
If you want to go on ahead, that's fine. I'll catch up with you later.
Right, so you do actually climb up here and a ladder to get to the second deck where all the fighting is. There are also 4 jump seats here. If you need a small crew of, if you need to send a small detachment of ground forces into an objective while you cover them from up above. Or if you're actually using this as a rescue ship, you can have 4 jump seats here for the crew that you need to rescue. All your components are back here, as well as a top turret up here. So that's where you get access to your top turret up there.
It's not the best I've seen from this manufacturer, but still a pretty solid showing.
You have access to a lower turret right there.
Makes what they're showing.
And then you have a front remote turret and a rear remote turret. So the thing is, you do not need a person to man the front remote turret. If the pilot is in control of the ship and there's no one manning the front remote turret, the pilot will get the front remote turret slaved to him automatically. So that way you don't have to worry about having a front remote turret. The rear remote turret, however, doesn't. So if you want to actually have 4 players fully, quote-unquote, man every single weapon, you can. You just have to have one person man the pilot seat, obviously, because they fly around, and also use the pilot-controlled weapons in their front remote turret. Second guy to man the rear remote turret, and then 2 people to man the 2 large turrets, the large lower turret and the large upper turret. Well, let's get a look at the pilot seat first, and then we'll look at the 2 turrets. So as a gunship and heavy fighter, you actually do have a decent bit of visibility, a little bit up to the sides and to the sides in general. You also have a little window down below for landing. And overall, it's a really nicely laid out cockpit. This is a ship I've debated many times getting, but small little pro tip, I've probably mentioned this in many IAE tip videos in the past, or tip videos in the past in general, but you definitely don't want to necessarily buy every single ship you want. You actually want to give yourself objectives for in-game, and this is a ship that I would definitely want to earn in-game with once I get a org together. Alright, it's not giving us access to the turret there. Let's see if it gives us access to the top turret. Alright, I probably did something, I probably wasn't like... You probably have to stand further back from that bottom turret in order to use it.
How fun would it be to own one?
I don't know. I don't think this is as good as some of their other work.
There we go. See, it's not letting you move the turret around or obviously power it up.
I really hope the other
See, it's, definitely see you have quite a bit of visibility up here in the upper turret here. As the turret pops up, you definitely have quite a good clearance there. You definitely sit high up enough that you're not going to hit your own ship, and you have lots of good firing arcs.
I keep coming to these.
I love going to shows like this. Such a good chance to see all my favorite vehicles in one place.
It's cool that the turret pops up, gives it a bit more clearance to shoot down and around.
Absorb as much as I can. Have to hit the next hall.
Yeah, I'm about ready too. Let's go.
Look right there.
I think I've seen enough of these. The next one.
Actually, I might stay for a while.
There we go.
To make sure I didn't miss anything here.
Good. And as it makes sense, you do actually get quite a lot of good lower visibility in this lower turret here. Because this is definitely going to be the turret that's going to be engaging all your ground targets. And it even, again, also offsets fairly down low. So you get a bit more, of a larger firing arc from that. So, it's pretty cool.
I'm going to move on to the
You also weirdly don't have a lot of good side-to-side visibility with these turrets, but you do at least have very good vertical visibility, which is probably more important. All right, let's climb back up into the ship and exit out,
I think this might be one of their strongest shots.
where we are going to have to wrap up with the last hull, but we are by no means going to shortly leave, or leave in any short amount of time, because the last hull does actually have one of Aegis Dynamics' largest ships, the Hammerhead, and we have my favorite fighter to go over. Alright, we'll cover, I'll probably cover the hull, cargo and mining hulls in a different video, just because Aegis Dynamics, again, has so much stuff to cover. Alright, we'll go over the fighters last. We'll end the video. Well, sorry, we're not going to end the video. We're going to end the ship tours on that note, because we do have the holo viewer. So we have the Hammerhead, and this is basically a anti-fighter screening Corvette. Very much an aerial denial screening Corvette for dealing with enemy fighters. So, towards the front and sides of the ship, you have your two lifts to get into the actual ship from down below. You also, interestingly enough, and I kind of wish that they would have this ship in orbit docked, because, believe it or not, I do believe this is a... Okay, didn't hurt myself there. I do believe that is a docking collar. And it's a docking collar that works with the, quote-unquote, new ships. It's a, it's the large docking ring that allows the ship to dock, so... I've never actually really flown one to give it a shot, but that would be cool to use, the docking ring on these ships to transfer in and out of it, because this is a way cooler view to like go into the docking collar. You have your you have all your suit lockers here. If you need to EVA out to deal with something, your suit lockers here, and then you have your airlock up there. So, entering in from the airlock and working clockwise, you might as well go ahead and go for the bridge first. There's an elevator as well as an emergency ladder on the side. Let's go ahead and hit that elevator. Bit of a bouncy ride. And here we are at the bridge. Interestingly, the bridge for the Hammerhead is on the quote-unquote lower side of the ship. If lower could be said of anything of a spaceship. And you have your pilot seat here. And it goes out on a little arm here, and it extends outward a little bit, as we're going to demonstrate here. And as you can see, you definitely have a bit of vertically restricted visibility. You can't see above you, but you can see below you, which is interesting. You have a decent bit of visibility all around to the sides. But you're going to be mostly trying to focus and coordinate your movement in relation to an escorting ship. You're not going to... As a pilot, you do not have, I believe, access to any gun-type weapons. I believe you might have access to missile weapons, though. However, you can also, I believe, designate your co-pilot to fire and coordinate with, use the missiles. So, that might be a thing on this ship. But you definitely have a pilot and co-pilot seat down there who are going to be coordinating the ship, flying it around. Not necessarily flying the ship so much to maneuver their own guns in on a target. It's going to be flying around to get these guys on target, which are the 6 ball turrets that encapsulate the ship. So we're only going to go on one, just because they're all very similar.
This is the last year, though.
But as you can see, you enter the turret.
Okay, I think I'm about done here.
And then the turret pops out, and you basically have all an insane degree of rotation on this turret, to the sides and up and down, to engage and track fighter-sized targets. So you have the 2 turrets on either side. So you have 4 turrets in total on the just kind of the ones on the side, and you have one on the top. And then you also have one down below in the aft.
Makes all of these.
So you have an insane amount of coverage on the Hammerhead, and you can see the turret retracting right there.
From what I've seen so far, I really think this is the manufacturer to beat this year.
Yeah, they've done a good job. I love their
And now we have this little section, little hall here where we have the elevators here going to the back of the ship, as well as a lot of nice windows looking at the outside world. You have an engineer. You have the secondary turret. You have like the aft side turret there, plus plenty of escape pods here. Moving, we'll do a full lap of the hull and then we'll go back there. You also have behind the access to the side turret there, an engineering wing here with components. You have a bit of a. You also have a crew quarters here. One side of the crew quarters has toilets. The other side of the crew quarters has showers. And you have room for 8 crew members. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So you have 8 beds for your crew members. And keep in mind, you're going to want to have this ship be fully crewed in order for it to be effective. So you definitely want at least 6 crew members just to man the guns, and then yourself as the pilot. And then that'll leave 2 other slots for engineering and other roles. You have a little bit of a cargo bay back here. This can hold a small rover, but you're more or less going to want to hold spare components and supplies and repair parts here, rather than necessarily a ground vehicle if you're doing any kind of like long duration trip, just because I can imagine with a ship like this, you're going to want spare guns in case things break. You're going to want a lot of repair materials because it's a large ship getting into a lot of combat. If you want missiles, you can buy extra missiles and stockpile them in here. It's definitely more of a cargo bay than a vehicle ramp, but you can definitely use it for some small vehicles if you wish. Not really a cargo trading vessel either, so it's not really meant for cargo trading. But there's your rear aft turret access there. Your engines on either side with the aggressive particle effects. You also have an elevator to get to a bit of an engineering bay up top, but we'll cover that on the second walkthrough portion of the walkthrough. Because we have, again, just repeating everything here. There's your turret access there. And it's a repeat of the front where you go up there and it's a bit of a hallway and you get to the front of the ship again. Now, this is where we get to that second part I was talking about. Back here, you have access to the top turret here in this little middle hallway. You have also access to the captain's quarters. So in addition to the 8 crew member beds, the captain has his own little office here, as well as his own little private bunk and shower head here. So unlike other ships where you have like the Reclaimer, where you have like 2 shower heads and 2 toilets for 4 crew members, with the Reclaimer here you have 2 showers and 2 toilets for 8 crew members, plus the captain has his own private quarters. So very much the captain really needs his own private bathroom in that case. Now, I want to double check that I was going the right way, because this is heading up to the second floor here. So there's a little bit of an elevator going to the second floor of the ship. And the second floor of the ship isn't all that extensive, thankfully, because this is already a fairly wide ship. But you have a bit of component access down there. And up here, you actually have the crew's mess hall. So you have lots of storage space over there for food and other items. You have a big mess hall over here. And you actually have a little window into the outside world up here. And what's really interesting is back here you actually have another little supply cabinet. So you can also have a lot more, like, you can have like a food surplus and food storage back here, as well as some medical stuff back here as well. Moving on. You have your little engineering bay, and you can use this engineering bay to also, like, oversee, like, the cargo down there, manage the ship systems from here as well. So there are actually 3 engineering stations on this ship, which is pretty nice. Definitely would be useful in combat, where if you have 2 engineers and they're all over the place, it can just quickly pop into the nearest engineering base station in order to do what they need to. And there are 2 suit lockers here, but unfortunately, I do not think this is a blast door. So unfortunately,
Yeah. Wanting to buy something like this.
You definitely want to make sure that that is sealed before accessing the suit locker. And that's it for the Reclaimer. Sorry, for the, not Reclaimer, the Hammerhead. There we go. And we can exit the ship through this cargo bay here.
Looking around, seems like a lot of people are enjoying themselves.
Alright, now we get to the best. But not the absolute least. In fact, this is... Well, sorry, we get to the last, but not least. Ship, the Gladius. And this is definitely Squadron 42's, and even to a certain extent, Star Citizen's, quote-unquote, hero or iconic ship. It's a light fighter. It's an older light fighter, as compared to some of the other ships in-game. And it is the Navy's primary light fighter and just fighter in general. So you have, with the Gladius, 2 size 2 missiles here on the outer wing mount, and 1 size 3 missile here on the inboard pylon. So you have access on a standard loadout, quote-unquote, to 3 missiles of varying sizes. You have 2 size 3 guns here on the wing-mounted weapon pylons. And then you also have a nose-mounted Vulcan gun here. So you do have access to quite a lot of firepower in this ship. It is very maneuverable and fairly fast, but most importantly, it's actually a relatively cheap fighter. I don't know exactly what is going on for sale right now, but I got mine for like a lot cheaper than a lot of Star Citizen fighter ships, fighter craft go for now. So if you're looking to get into combat, I would highly recommend this ship. Not only for the fact it's relatively cheap but still powerful, but this is the quote-unquote hero ship of Squadron 42, and in fact, if you watch CIG's latest tech demo, you've seen that they were using this ship quite a lot for tech demos. And that's because, as Squadron 42's hero ship, this ship has been getting a lot of attention, and it's used as a test bed for Squadron 42 tech. Now, eventually, all this tech will roll out to other ships in the game, but it's going to be a while because there's a lot of ships in game, and as you were even seeing today, like, older ships don't necessarily get updated with newer technology right away, mainly because they want to wait until all the tech is done, and then they want to redo all the ships in one pass, because that way they're not having to redo a redo. But as this ship is the quote-unquote gold standard and, like, the poster child of Squadron 42, a lot of updates get rolled into this ship just to showcase tech as well as test bed other tech. Lots of component bays down here. So you actually have a radar and avionics bay down here. You have this little panel here that I guess ground crews plug into to run self-diagnostic test. On this side, you actually have a weapon rack that you have 2 weapons that you can store and pull out of here. So for Squadron 42, when you get on when you do your ground ops missions, you can take the rifles, put them in here, and then once you land, pull them out for do the ground missions. You also, I believe, have a little bit of storage back here. So you can, if you need to have any storage, you can drop off small containers back here. It's a decent bit of storage at 250,000 micro SCU. Now, obviously, this is not storage box container level stuff, but you can still mount like extra guns, extra loot that you find in there, especially some mission items. Not mission boxes, but mission items. Also, you have the refueling port back here for ground ops. So whenever you're landed on the carrier deck or on the air base, I guess. I don't think I would consider. I want to know if they would still call them air bases. But whenever you're landed and the ground crew is servicing the ship, you pop up that door and you have access to a refueling port. Also, on the top of the ship, I don't know if I can climb on top, but I also do know that on the top of the ship, you do have access to some component bays up there as well. Let's see here. One other thing to note before I go in and show the cockpit off. Also, the ship is actually very aerodynamic. It's very much a atmospheric fighter at heart with those wings. So, it is very much not only an agile ship in space, but also on the ground. Now, this is also, by the way, an older cockpit here. Now, I do know with their, with Squadron 42, they're going to revamp the cockpit. And I think they already have showcased the revamped cockpit in a couple of demos. So, keep in mind, this is not what it's going to look like in probably a couple of years when Squadron 42 rolls around and they're ready to roll out the upgraded Gladius. But, generally, the cockpit angles and like the view is going to be the same. So you're going to have the det cord canopy shattering device up here. That is actually standard on a lot of British aviation. And then you have this insane amount of like visibility here. So I would probably say of all the ships here at IAE, the stock Aegis Gladius is my recommended buy, especially if you are going to be getting into the verse as a dogfighter. You can actually earn the Gladius also as part of the referral program, I believe. And there's a couple of other ways to get them in-game. I think there was actually at one time a starter package that had the Gladius as a starter package. So you can also buy it as a starter, quote-unquote, a starting ship package. Not quite sure if that's the case anymore. But even then, Inverse, I don't imagine it's that as expensive to buy Inverse, so it's a very capable ship. I'm going in again. Come on, exit. There we go. Alright. Yeah, definitely recommend the Gladius. That's my recommended ship for the show floor today. There's also another variant of the Gladius. Like with the Avenger Titan Renegade, there's the Gladius Valiant, which is a custom paint scheme and custom weapons loadout. It swaps the size, the 2 size 2 missiles for a 4 size 1 missile hardpoint here on the wings, for a total of 8 size 1 missiles to just annoy the crap out of anyone and possibly deal with the swarms of smaller vehicles. Plus, again, you have your larger inboard size 3 missiles here. And this one is interesting because it has laser cannon armaments as opposed to a laser repeater armament on the wings. And instead of a ballistic nose gun, it has a nose-mounted ballistic gun. Also, the Gladius paint job here is a little bit sharper. It's a bit more muted on the standard Gladius, but here on the Valiant, it's a bit more sharper, it's a bit more brighter. You can actually buy a paint job that is very similar to this. I believe it is the Timberline paint. So, otherwise, it's the same all around. Let's see here. Did they? Yep, no, they have the weapon access there too. So, it's definitely an option if you want a slightly different Gladius.
Going to the IAE so much.
I would probably see about the Gladius. Just buy the base Gladius and then get a paint job and then try the different weapons out in game. The Valiant is cool, but you don't necessarily need to spend the extra money on just a cool paint scheme. You can just buy. They have a whole bunch of paints you can buy for the Gladius. Just buy them on the website, because then that way you'll have a bit more choice. And it's almost an hour and a half, as holy crap, Aegis is a very big manufacturer, so there's a lot to go over. But thankfully, we're about to wrap it up as we descend down into the abyss that is the Holoviewer. Alright, so Holoviewer. Holoviewer for IAE and Aegis, they'll probably be the same standard things that has been for the past couple of years at this point. You have the Aegis Idris, which is the frigate. Now, the Idris, we did get a bit of an update. The Idris will be available for backers who have bought the Idris when Squadron 42 comes out. So when Squadron 42 gets released, the Idris will be released into the PU. So that would be a cool event to see that happen. The Aegis, we have the Nautilus, which is a mine layer. Mine laying is a very specific gameplay loop that we have no idea what it's about. So there's nothing really to say much about this ship other than the fact that it lays mines and and maybe drones, and we have no idea what it really does other than like area denial. But this is a ship that has been far, far, far put on the backlog. So it would be a miracle if we honestly heard anything about this ship for 3, 4, even maybe 5 years. I mean, maybe not 5 years. We would definitely hear something about this ship in like 5 years, but I doubt we're going to hear anything about this ship in the next 2. And even with the and also with the Idris and Nautilus, they're super expensive. I can't recommend buying a ship that massive and large that far out in advance. Especially with the Idris, it's so ridiculously expensive. Just don't. Just don't unless you have a lot of money to spend and you have a huge org of friends you want to play with. Now, a ship that I own that is interesting, that I also don't think I'll see now for another, like, 4 or 5 years at this point, is the Aegis Vulcan. It's a drone-based ship, but this drone-based ship does repair work. So there's 4 little bays that you can see right here, 2 on this side, and 2 on the other side, and they launch little repair drones. And you fly the repair drones out, and you service the ship, like you repair other ships, you can refuel them, you can do other things, and it basically goes around to be a cute little support ship. Cockpit's up there, engines are in the back. Again, drone gameplay is something that I doubt we'll see in Star Citizen in 2 years, and it'll probably honestly take 4 years, because they don't tend to release concept ships for the first implementation of a mechanic. Usually they'll usually do like some like surprise like drop mechanic or like a concept for that, and then they'll redo it, and then they'll go back and cover this. But Aegis Vulcan, it's cool. It's a repair ship. I bought it on concept. You could buy it on concept too. It'd probably be cheaper if you really want a repair ship, but it's one of those ships that buy it but don't expect it to be in game for like a decade, or not. Well, not a decade, but like 3 to 4 years, 5 years at the most. Well, not 5 years. Probably at least 3 years. We're not going to see salvage gameplay or drone gameplay. And that's it for Aegis Day. Alright, we managed to get this video done in under an hour and a half. Whew. Lots to go over with Aegis. It's like I said, it is one of the biggest manufacturers here in the verse and in the game. I'm honestly trying to think right now if there's any other, like, quote-unquote bigger manufacturer of ships. RSI is pretty big, but a lot of their ships are similar, and they don't have anything they don't have like a bunch of massive ships. Origin is probably another big manufacturer, but they don't have as many as wide range of ships. Yeah, I would probably say Aegis Dynamics Day at any of the ship sale days, either at IAE or especially at Invictus. That is usually the biggest day. Tomorrow, I'll probably be doing another late upload tomorrow because I'll be heading out today and I'll be gone until like late tomorrow. But Crusader and another one of my favorite manufacturers, Tumbrel, will be coming out with their stuff. Tumbrel does ground vehicles, so they're just a couple of small ground vehicles. Crusader has a couple of ships, so it's not going to be that big of a day. Origin's going to be big just because they have quite a lot of ships, and they have the massive 890 jump, and the also large 600i. Drake is not too bad. Yeah, Drake's not too bad coming up, and then Anvil's the next big day after Origin, probably be Anvil and then RSI. Misk is getting pretty big though. I'm curious to see if they fit a hull, what they do with the hull C, if they fit the hull C in there or not. But that's enough talking. I still have quite a few days to go of the expo. Definitely, like I said, alien manufacturers on day 1 are still available right now through the end of today. And then tomorrow, Crusader and Tumbrel will replace the alien manufacturers. So keep in mind, definitely want to see, if you want to see the alien manufacturers, do that now. You have quite a bit of time with Aegis because Aegis literally just dropped as of me recording this video. So I will say this has been Loco S, signing out from IAE Intergalactic Aerospace Expo 2953 for Aegis Dynamics Day. And oh boy, it was a massive drop. I believe the limited hull ships, by the way, for today are the Idris and the Javelin. For those of you who have more sense than money, have more money than sense, you can pick up those two massive capital ships. But for the rest of us, there's plenty of good ships in there. Definitely, like I said, recommend the Gladius as a starting combat ship. Even though, honestly, to keep as a ship that you don't really trade up or upgrade, just keep it as a light fighter, because it is a very cost-effective and efficient light fighter for what it is. So until next time, this is Loco S signing out, and like I said, tomorrow it'll be Crusader Industries and Tumbrel Day. So until then, see you around.